One ahead, fucking what were you saying there before we before we got official?
Women and drugs.
Women and drugs by now. The bane of your life. Ruin
What's
your
the
life.
crack in it?
Both of them. All's quiet. All's quiet. Right, we get stuck in.
Aye. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, we're gonna talk this week we're gonna cover hydration. Hang on, I close this other window. We're gonna talk about hydration for fighters. So like loads of people are asking me like how much should I be drinking? Or maybe not even drinking a lot. I actually done my dissertation on this in uni, was the hydration status of MMA athletes. And what I found in that, like I think I had 50 people come in and done the sort of the study in the club, and we got them
I'll
to.
learn loads myself in this one then.
Oh,
I'll learn loads myself in this one then.
well, we just sort of find that, like, I just told them, just do what you normally do. Don't be thinking of anything about the study or anything. And yeah, you're probably going to get a few people, they didn't really know what it was about, but a few people did. So maybe them couple of people were thinking, oh, I'm going to drink loads coming into this, you know what I mean? Because I'm getting tested here. But what I done is I done their USG before and after. And the USG can be, it's not a great indicator of full body hydration, but it's a wee bit of it gives you a wee bit of an idea.
What's
But
USG?
so it's a urine specific gravity. So essentially what they do in 1FC, so that test. So I done that before and after, and I've done their body weight before and after, and just to discover like how much they were losing, and then looked at their hydration status, and worked out their body fat or their body percentage of weight loss that they had through dehydration and stuff like that. So majority of the people weren't drinking. Like most of the boys, piss was completely fucking dark after training. Some of them were
Yeah.
coming in hydrated, some were coming in dehydrated, and then progressively getting more dehydrated throughout the training session. So it was just a normal session. So that sort of showed that, like, on average, like people aren't really
Did you do it with
hydrated.
guys in the gym or was it with people
Yeah,
you were
just in
working with
Team
then?
Torres and Yuri,
Aye.
yeah. So I think it was like the Thai boxing boys and then MMA boys. It was more, no, it was more the MMA boys. It wasn't really the Thai boxing.
Aye.
So like there was, I think I'm pretty sure there was about 50 people. Um, Talked them in, talked their weights before, their hydration status with the USG before. So basically, I was going back up to uni on the Sunday with a
Pile of
hundred,
pi-
a hundred fucking wee things full of piss. So I was on the train and I had to carry these up the road in the train. I was like, imagine these fucking things spilled over in my bag, but I was just pissed all over the train. Like. Um, but they weighed themselves before and after. We done the USG before and after, so collected a urine sample before and after, and then I got them to do like what do you call it, a questionnaire on their nutritional knowledge to see like if that anybody that had a bit more nutritional knowledge maybe hydrated better or and stuff like that. So that was the whole point of it. And just to see and check the hydration status. And then most of them were dehydrated. So it is a thing that a lot of people tend to be dehydrated when they're training. Either they're coming in dehydrated, they're becoming dehydrated during the training session, or they're not rehydrating properly after. So that's the three things that I found happened. They're the three things I'll probably talk about today. Yeah.
I even sure like even myself, like when I'm training, like I notice myself, I'm always dehydrated all the time. Like I'm probably dehydrated now at the minute. But obviously when it comes up to the
All
training
the
session,
Guinness you're drinking, that's why.
all the Guinness and Monster and coffee and like that's what I'm going to talk about. Like even like in terms of like getting fluid intake boards, like in terms of water, what's actually hydrating you and stuff as well. Um, like I might have a Monster, whatever, a coffee before training, and then I'll try drink some water before training, and then obviously have it. Even like during sessions is another one where you know yourself when you're sparring, you take a sip of water, and then you're going to the next round after that, and you're actually not even taking much out of the bottle. But
Yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of like say like a football athlete or someone like that, like they're constantly taking water breaks and like at half time they're drinking loads and stuff and they've that gap window, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so look, I think like a couple of things to sort of talk about is like number one, coming in, starting the session hydrated is a big thing. Like pre.
Even your mental clarity and stuff like that when you're hydrated, it's much better, like you mean.
I had stuff written down here, so I had yeah, so like what did I say? Yeah, so trying to trying to come in hydrated to the training session is going to be a big thing. So pre-hydration, so making sure you're hydrated starting, because what's going to happen, obviously, you're going to start becoming dehydrated, if, especially in the good weather like that, hot weather. Maybe you're training in the gi, maybe you're just in a gym that's very warm. So those conditions are going to cause you to sweat a lot more. If you're doing heat acclimation, you're obviously going to sweat more as well. It's not as detrimental to performance if you've done your heat acclimation, but you're going to sweat, and the more you sweat, like the opportunity to drink, as you said, in fight training is probably going to be less than it would be in football, or other types of sports like I was going to say golf there, but I suppose it is a sport. Like, you're walking around, you can drink all day. Not that you're going
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
sweating loads. Obviously, different sports have different sweat rates, but the likes of MMA training, Thai boxing is going to have a very high sweat rate, for
Yeah,
the type of training that it's doing and the conditions. So, and then in that sense, then the opportunity to drink is low, and the impact that drinking lots will have on you when you're playing, or
yeah.
when you're training, is going to be high, because there's a lot of movements and things like that. So the
That's
mechanical.
I mean you don't even want more because you don't want your belly being full and stuff.
Exactly, and then you
Yeah,
feel it all swishing around, you're scrapping and stuff. So that's where um the pre-training hydration will come in a lot. So like say I trying to get in like maybe 2 hours before, trying to make sure that you're at least drinking like maybe 600 ml, like over half a liter, closer towards a liter if you can, in the couple of hours like leading into that. And then the hour before, maybe making sure that you're having, like if you go with the studies, I think it's 250 to 300 ml or something of fluid intake in the hour before. So essentially starting that training session hydrated is going to make sure that, if you're going in there dehydrated, like a slightly dehydrated or just at balance, I suppose, and then you become dehydrated during it, you're going to becoming more dehydrated. But if you go in there hyperhydrated, so you're drinking more than what you need, then you're going to balance out. Do you know what I mean? Or you're going to be
I
less dehydrated by the end of it.
I think I've definitely seen studies. I don't know it's from yourself or someone's posted before, but it's something like how much it can impact your performance is something like 80% or something like that. Like I'm sure we'll find something we can post it on the groups now with obviously this video that we're gonna put in as well. Like how much it actually impacts your performance is crazy.
Well,
Like you might not notice it, like, but like obviously in your training you might I got by that session, it was grand, but I think that studies or something showing it was like 70-80% where it can actually impact your performance.
it is very individual though, is the only thing, because there are some sort of thoughts that, you know, in certain sports, I suppose, that even when you become dehydrated, then your body weight's going down, and then you're in a lighter body, and then like even running and things like that, so you can actually perform better because you're in a lighter body, so it kind of balances out. There's also like people's tolerance to dehydration can be higher, so you can actually train your body to train in a dehydrated state. So there's like dehydration tolerance training. So same like heat acclimation, it's dehydration acclimation. So it's that there's some like research on that where you can just teach yourself to be able to sort of cope in a dehydrated state. And then it is kind of individual to an extent, but if you look at the sort of bulk of it, they say that like maybe 1% dehydration of body weight. Like if you lose 1% of your body weight, you're 100 kilos, you lose a kilo in your training session. It's going to be very, very sort of little minimal impact on performance. As it starts to increase, so to 2%, so you lose 2 kilos if you're 100 kilos. As it starts to increase, then the impacts then start to increase. So like 2% cognitive function starts getting impacted. So you basically can't like take in stuff as well. If like
Right.
someone's teaching drills and you're trying to concentrate on drills, you don't take in as well. Decision making, like you're rolling, you go to fucking maybe escape a certain direction. You don't, you're not thinking right. You're maybe
Yeah.
not seeing shots coming as quick, things like that. Your reaction time gets impacted as it starts to increase. Then 3, 4, 5%. Like the higher it goes, then the more it impacts everything. So your performance, as you say, like your ability to actually perform the exercise, your time to exhaustion decreases, so you become exhausted quicker. You feel the training is a lot harder. The perceived rating of exertion is higher. So all of those things start to increase, and then like risk obviously of cramps and things like that as you go higher in the dehydration. So it is it's individual, but like if you're not sort of accustomed to it, you can definitely see like detrimental impacts like over just 2%. So like you imagine somebody's 70 kilos and they lose 1.4 kilograms during a training session. If you weigh yourself before and after a training session, I'd say guarantee most times people are losing that amount or more. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So um it's gonna, you're gonna put yourself at potential risks there. But as it increases, so say you lost your 70 kilos, you lose 2.1 kilos in a training session between before and after, just from sweating, and that's very likely if you're training maybe an hour, 2 hours. Um, yeah, that's definitely going to impact you. Do you know what I mean? As you go to the 3%, 4%, as the higher percentage it goes, the more it's going to impact you.
And you'll feel it as well, like as you say, from the lower bracket, the higher bracket. Like there's times maybe I've came to do a podcast where you came over to your thing and I've asked you to get me a water, like or something. I mean, because you can actually feel it then. You've had it like a hard session or might have
Yeah,
been warmer that day or whatever.
yeah, definitely. Like the more, and that's another thing too. Like if it's hot and you're dehydrated, like your heat tolerance is going to be less. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to tolerate the heat anywhere near as much as you could if you were hydrated. And then the fact that you can't tolerate the heat, that saps your energy as well. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it all sort of plays in together. So it is super important. Like
Like obviously, like you fighters as well, like in Thailand and stuff, places like that there, like obviously their protocol will be different from ours due to the heat and stuff like that. And then obviously everyone just being different as it is, you know what
well, like to really look at it, right? So what you want to do, and I've been discussing this with a few people lately, because like there's a lot of times we look at like, right, get your calories right, get your macros right. Make sure you're timing your carbs, getting the right amount of carbs around your training, all of these things, your supplements and everything. And then you can look at like gut training and all of those things where you're starting to progressively increase the carbs that they can handle. And you can also look at the hydration your hydration protocol of your training. So that's another thing that if anybody's listening to this and you're not specifically focusing on your hydration, like, reach out and go, "Well, look, I want to start looking at that. I want to see, like, how can I hydrate properly for these sessions? I do feel maybe that's an issue in this session, and then we'll help you put together an actual hydration protocol." So essentially what you're looking at is you're looking at the pre, and it's certain amounts. It's going to be different for everybody, but if you really wanted to go into it, you look at your pre-training. So make sure that you're hydrated leading into the training session, and make sure that you're obviously out drinking, a certain amount throughout the day, normally, habitually. So like anywhere between 30 to 40 mil per kilogram of body weight habitually throughout the day. But then specifically looking at your training sessions, especially the ones that you're going to sweat more in, your pre-training, so you're like, what did I say, about 500 to 600 mil in the 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours before, and then in the hour
I mean?
before,
100 was it?
then half of that, so
Yeah.
like 250, 300, whatever it was, and then during the training session, what we want to do is look at your weight before and your weight after, and then just drink your normal drinks and measure like how much you're drinking, even how much you're pissing. Like if anybody's going to the toilet, that's another thing that they do in that study. If anybody was going to the toilet, they had to piss in a jug, and we had to fucking measure how much they were their urine loss and their fluid intake, so that it shows your overall balance. Um, Not that you have to do that, but you can just weigh yourself before and after and look at how much you've drank, and then that'll tell us then what percentage of body weight loss you've had on that training session, and then that'll allow us to then say, right, well, you're losing this amount of weight. This is now 3% of your body weight. Let's try and minimize that amount of percentage and bring it maybe down to zero if we can, if it's practical. But if it's not, at least bring it down to like 1.5. Do you know what I mean? Where it's not detrimental then. So it's
Yeah.
not a case of like, right, I'm losing say 2, 3 kilos, right? I'm 100 kilos just for easy maths. I'm 100 kilos. I lose 3 kilos in my training session. That's 3% of my body weight. It's not like we're going to say, right, you need to drink now an extra 3 liters to stop that's not practical. But we'll say maybe you need to drink an extra liter and a half. So now you're below the threshold of that 2%. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? So
Yeah.
that's what you'd be looking at, and just again making it sort of practical in a sense. So what you're trying to do is start the session hydrated, reduce the level of dehydration as much as you can during it. You're not going to reduce it all. And then post training, you want to look at trying to replace what again is practical. If somebody's going to bed, some boys training fucking finished 9:30, maybe at night, 9 o'clock, maybe sometimes later. And if you look at the research, look at the papers, even the UFCPI, like on their course, it's like 125% to 150% of what's lost to replace, and
Yeah.
that's just coming directly from the studies. But again, use that example of somebody losing maybe 3 kilos in a fucking training session. What's three times 1.5? Like, is that like four or something?
4.5.
Is it 4.5? Yeah, times 1.5. I don't know. This is calculator's not good at maths, but everything needs to be done on the calculator. 4.5. There you go, genius. Should just talk your thing. So like,
No,
there's
because we've obviously used that guy before, like anyone that I've worked with. Like I've never went specifically into anything with hydration with clients, if I'm being completely honest.
yeah.
But like the study, like we always show them, we've done videos on it, is they replace by times 1.5. But as you're saying there, like if you go to bed fucking, you finish training 9:30, you get home 10:30.
It's not
What's the
practical.
chances of you drinking all that? Like it's
You're not
mental.
going to drink 4.5 liters before bed. You're going to be up all night,
Yeah.
and then that's impacting your sleep. Um, you know,
But think, say we've spoke about this before though. Like you says, as long as if you replace before the next training session, it doesn't matter. Like before,
That's exactly what I was going to
uh,
say. So you want it to be replaced or at least rehydrated, like as much as you can replace before the next training session. So if you're doing doubles in the day and your early session, you'd obviously want to replace that, before
yeah,
your next session in the evening or the afternoon or whatever. If it's a late one at night and you have a session early in the morning, then you're gonna maybe go right. Look, I'll try and get most of it in now, and then the rest of it in the morning. At least I'm starting the session hydrated, and then really focus on your hydration during that session. And then if it's like I'm training tonight and I'm not training again till tomorrow night, you're going to be hydrated before your next training session. So yes, you're going to maybe sleep dehydrated, and you have to account for that then when you go to weigh yourself in the morning. So you say to yourself, well, look, this isn't a true weight as well. So you need to think about that too, because they're not
I
weighing.
touch on that as well. Like there's times I've definitely in the evening time maybe just sipped on water and stuff because I'm like, right, my weight's gonna be down in the morning in the scales just to give you
And
that wee
then
bit.
you fool yourself. Like even there
Aye.
this morning, I trained last night, and then last night I didn't replace what I lost. Definitely didn't. But I had my dinner late and stuff. Um, and then I got up this morning and weighed myself, and I was fucking a good bit lighter. And I was like, that's not a true weight. It's
It's not real, no.
not real. But I suppose you can look and then say if your piss is quite clear and stuff when you get up, then you're like, well, maybe I'm not too dehydrated here, so you might be all right, but like if you've lost a lot, you haven't replaced it, and you woke up and your piss is a wee bit dark, don't take that weight. But that's sort of a different thing. But essentially, you want to make sure you're coming into it hydrated, you're preventing as much dehydration during, and you're replacing what's practical after. If you have the timeline between the two training sessions, then you can 100% fire in, the 1.5, 1.25% over 125 to 150% more than what you've lost. So you can do that. And then electrolytes or sodium and all of that sort of stuff. It's very individual when it comes to that. I'm actually looking into getting there's like a wee thing you can do that measures your sweat sodium loss. So then you can look at, right, fuck, I'm losing this much sodium during these
Well, you need to replace it
training
or not.
sessions. Well, this is the amount I need to lose. So um yeah, it's again that's another thing where you can't just throw out a generic number. If you're getting some sodium in your food, you're getting some electrolytes in, you're probably going to replace what you've lost. So, not overthinking it. But if you really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty, you could get your sweat sodium or sweat total body sweat loss sodium amounts measured, and then you'll know exactly, right, this is the amount of sodium that I exactly need. Do you know what I mean? But just putting some in is going to be better than none.
Say for this is just me speaking out loud here, and I don't know to chat about this. So say right, you have a fighter in Thailand. Now also there's benefits of like taking like electrolytes, obviously over in like the warmer weather and training and stuff. And like electrolytes before training is obviously like they try and pre-session, but then would you get like fighters they take electrolyte before and after training if they're in the warmer country? Because obviously they try hold on to water and be hydrated going into the session.
Yeah.
but then they've lost it all. But say, for example, a fighter took it before a session, would you still get them to take one maybe after, or
Yeah, like the same sort of principles apply there as it does here. Just with
because
the
a common question people ask is like, oh, when should I take my electrolytes, before or after training? I mean,
yeah, look, I think it's a really it depends on the conditions and depends on the place. Like, here, like again, some people could be salty sweater, some people might not be. So some
uh,
people will probably need it. Like, you'll know yourself, you'll see, like, you can always see it on yourself. Some people need like more electrolytes, and taking it before and after and during and all is going to really help, because they do have a lot of sweat sodium loss when they're
and then
sweating.
some people might not even need it before, but need it after then.
Yeah, some people don't even really fucking sweat that much either. Do you know what I mean? So you don't really need it. Some people could sweat a lot, but it might not be much sodium in it, so you don't really need it. And then the sodium that you have in your diet could cover that. So it's not
Yeah,
it's not a case of, yes, electrolytes are perfect, just take electrolytes all the time. Again, there's nothing detrimental with taking them, maybe, before, during, and after. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to help you retain the fluid. It's going to help your hydration status. It's not that it's because you don't need it that taking it's going to have any issues, any negative
yeah.
consequences. It's just one of those things that maybe you don't need it.
You just don't need it, so
You know what I mean? You could be just taking it for the sake of it and thinking that you're getting a benefit from it, but you don't actually need it. But like in Thailand, because of the heat and because of the humidity, the conditions there for sweat rate are going to be a lot higher. So you're going to fucking
yeah,
sweat loads. I know boys that are drinking a couple of liters, 3, 4 liters during training sessions. But they're training for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Like, and they're drinking loads of fluid, and they're still weighing way, way, way later after. Like, do you know what I mean? So they're
yeah.
sweating buckets, like, and because you're sweating that amount, then the sodium loss is probably going to be greater. Same as a weight cut. If you compare a normal training session, your sweat sodium loss, because everybody's like, oh yeah, so I need to take electrolytes because after a fight I take electrolytes. So maybe if I take them during training as well, that's going to be a good thing.
All
But
right,
you're not sweating to the level that you would be doing, or you're not in the conditions that you would be doing when you're doing a weight cut, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So, like, when you're doing the
That's
weight
another
cut,
thing too. Carbs and creatine stuff, that's retaining water that you might be pulling out in fight week and stuff as well.
yeah, that's it too.
Yeah,
So your hydration status during fight week, or when actually doing a sauna or those conditions, is going to be greatly impacted compared to just a normal training session. So that's where sodium and making sure we're getting the oral rehydration shakes and all of those things is super important. Whereas a normal training session is probably not as important. But if the conditions are switched where it's hot, where it's real humid weather, Dubai, Thailand, them sort of places. Maybe not so much Dubai because they all fucking train inside, but Thailand, like, definitely you're outside, it's hot, it's humid, all of those things. You're going to sweat more, you're going to probably lose a lot more sodium. So the electrolytes before, during, and after is probably going to be a good shout. Here, it's like a take it or leave it kind of thing, unless you're a salty sweater. And the only way you know that is either by looking at yourself, you can almost see it patches kind of, some people, or getting your sweat sodium test done. And
yeah.
that's probably what you're losing. So, science.
But it does no harm anyway to take them, obviously.
Yeah, well, it does no harm. It does no harm. Look, and all it really does is help you retain your fluid more. It helps you hold on to the fluid. It reduces the urine output, so your overall total fluid balance is better. So you're not just pissing out the water that you're drinking, essentially. So,
Again, too, for someone worried about the scales, like you're obviously going to be a bit heavier because you're taking electrolytes and stuff as well. You're retaining more water.
but that's another thing too. Like, if somebody is taking electrolytes habitually, like, a lot of people are now, it's the new fucking, almost like the new
It's almost
craze.
like a craze, eh?
Isn't it? Like, it's like every
Aye,
somebody's being sponsored by an electrolyte company, and they're like, "Oh, you need to take your electrolytes," blah blah blah. Like, if you go back, right, and you go back and watch Jordan Sullivan, like the fight dietitian, if you
yeah,
go back and watch his videos from, like, where last year and the year before, I actually done a post on it because there was another guy that I know from down south done a video on how much, a couple of summers ago, how much electrolytes are super important, and I done a post like that they're not, that
aye.
put up all the research and all. And if you watch Jordan Sullivan's thing, he was releasing that train aid thing that he does, the electrolyte drink. Um, and he was like, electrolytes this and that, blah blah blah. So he was on the
You're
bandwagon.
promoting it, eh?
And then you fast forward a couple of years, he's posting stuff saying that, oh, it's not really as important as what you think. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Right.
it is almost like one of those, like not a fad. It's not a fad. Like it's going to be beneficial, but it's like almost people are overdoing it now.
It's over promoting it as like guy. They're like,
Yeah, it's like the protein thing. It's like fucking
aye,
protein went, oh, protein's important. Like, and then it went from protein's good for, people that are trying to lose weight or for people that are training and stuff. And now everything's fucking protein, this, protein, that. You know what I mean? There's
it's like bottles of Prime and all that sort of stuff. It's just like just first thing it says inside electrolytes and then a whole pile of other stuff. You know what I mean? You're just like right,
And that's it. People think, oh, there's electrolytes in this. Like,
aye,
if you ask most people what are actually electrolytes, what is an electrolyte, like they wouldn't have a fucking clue. Like, if you said to me, name me three electrolytes, they'd be like, oh, I don't know, have a clue. Stuff what they drink. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't have a notion. Like, so,
aye,
it's just another for a lot of people. It's another one of these buzzwords now, and they think, if I get my electrolytes, it's this whole big performance enhancer, but it's not
aye.
it. I actually done a post on that one time or a poll, and it was like, do you take electrolytes for performance? And there was a load of people like, yeah, 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 yeah. And I was like, they don't actually impact. If you look at the research, they don't directly
Aye.
impact performance at all. They'll like indirectly help if they just keep your fluid balance, but like you might not even need them at all. So I'm not trying to diss on electrolytes, they're definitely useful, but it's
But they're just over like I know it's exactly like they're overhyped. You know what I mean?
overhyped.
They,
It's situational dependent, it
aye.
depends on the person, depends on their sweat rate, depends on their conditions, depends on their sodium losses when they're sweating, all of those things, whether you actually need them or not. If you're eating plenty of sodium in your diet, you probably would get away with that without.
So say a protocol, right? Just say right. So just say 70 kg fighter, or would stick with 100 kg fighter, for example, just in case we have to do any math. So what would you?
Maybe tiny calculator here, look.
So say like a protocol for just a fighter, just normal. And that's not even a Casio.
Look at the size of it. It's fucking palm size.
You need the Casio.
I got this in the pound shop. It's deal with.
Just use your phone, no?
I usually do, but I try and leave my phone away when I'm working.
Uh,
So that's why I was like, if I have my phone, I'll just end up on Instagram for about an hour.
just say like your average fighter, for example. Like, have you a protocol that you give someone? Just say they're living in Ireland, normal day to day training, maybe do their 9 to 5 work and then train in the evening time. Like, what sort of protocol would you give them?
So again, it depends. It's very
Like, obviously, it depends on their fluid intake as it is, obviously, and stuff, and
yeah.
what they're
So
not used to and stuff. But
it depends on again on all of those things like the sweat rate and everything. But if say for toxic somebody take something practical away, it would be like, right, number one is, am I drinking enough habitually throughout the day? So um it's either, I'm trying to remember, there's another way of doing it by the calories, but that's, if you're not really tracking your calories, that's not really important because a certain amount of water is used to process food. So there is a way to do it a certain amount per 1,000 calories or something or whatever it is, per 100 calories. Can't remember exactly what it is. But anyway, um, anywhere between 30 to 40 mil per kilogram of body weight a day. So that's our 100 kilo guy is obviously three
whatever.
three
Say
times.
say 70 kilo, like just your average 70 kilo guy.
Yeah, so
So 70 times
730 is what we're
two
running
ten.
with 10 minutes left. Yeah, so 210 to what, 28 a day, or
Aye,
2,100 to 2,800 mil.
right. So
Yeah,
that'd be a liter then.
yeah, so 30 to 40 mil per kilogram of body weight a day. So
Aye.
that's
So
what you
between 2 and 3 liters, like obviously what I've obviously told people is like, and then including obviously probably the water that you want to replace from say your training session as well,
so that's
which
an
would be normally about a liter. So you're talking an average day, you're 2 to 4 liters, like obviously the lower end for females and then higher end for male, obviously being heavier. But
Well, it's all weight dependent. So you do 30 to 40 mil per kilogram of body weight habitually. That's what
yeah,
should be taken in throughout the day, like non-negotiable.
yeah,
Then you need to look at your training sessions. You need to look at what your sweat loss is
what
in
you're losing.
your training session. So you weigh yourself before the training session, you weigh yourself after the training session, see the difference, and that difference is the
Try
fluid.
to get close you can times it
So
1.5.
you lose a kilo. No, you're not 1.5. So you lose a kilo, um, and that's well, yeah. Well, you can try and replace as much after if you can, if it's suitable. But so look, just to bring it down again. So 30 to 40 mil per kilogram of body weight. Weigh yourself before and after your training session. See how much you're losing in that training session. You need to see then what percentage that is, and then you want to try and prevent like any more than 2% of weight loss. So whatever that is, it'll depend on what your percentages are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's a 70 kilo male, they're 30 to 40, so it's what 2,100 to 2,800 mil a day habitually. They're going into a training session. They're losing, say, for talk's sake, quick math, 2,000, or they're losing 2.1 kilos during that training session. So that's 3% of their body weight. They want to stop maybe fucking they maybe want to only lose 1% of their body weight. So during that training session, they want to drink 1,400 mil. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Aye.
So that leaves them that they've only lost like 0.7 during that training session. So essentially, it's preventing the
So you're not as
dehydration.
in a dehydrated state then.
Yeah, so it's making sure you're drinking enough throughout the day, 30 to 40 mil per kilogram, making sure that you're drinking leading into your training session. So the 500 to 600 mil in the 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours before, then half of that in the hour before, and then during the training session, making sure that you're preventing anything more than say 1.5, 2% dehydration during it, and that's going to be relative to the person and their body weight and what they're losing. And then you drink that during the training session if that's practical. And
Yeah.
then after the training session, you want to make sure that you're rehydrated before the next session. So if that's a session later on that day, you're drinking 1.5 times what you've lost. So say for talk's sake, I've only lost a liter. I'm a 100 kilo guy. I've only lost a liter. It's only 1% of my body weight, but I'm still slightly dehydrated. I want to drink 1.5 liters to get that back. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yes, the dehydration during the training session wouldn't have impacted me, but if I don't replace that before the next one, it's going to cause me to be more dehydrated for the next session, and that's going to impact me potentially. So that's the way you look at it. 30 to 40 mil per kilogram throughout the day habitually. Come into your training session 2 to 3 hours before, drinking 500 to 600 mil, an hour before, drinking half of that, and starting this session hydrated. Look at your weight before and after, and yeah, obviously I have to account for how much you're drinking as well.
Looking proud.
Try and reduce that percentage weight loss down to about 1%, 1.5% if you can. And then after the training session, try to replace as much as you practically can before the next training session. If you can get it all in before the next session, that's perfect. If it's late at night and you're trying to, fucking go to sleep and it's too much, then you can just make sure that you drink it before the next one the next day. So. And then if you want
Right.
electrolytes, throw electrolytes in as well. If you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, you get your sweat sodium test done, and that'll tell you whether or not you're losing. And then if you want to stop, not stop, but aid all of that, you do your heat acclimation stuff. So when
Right.
your heat acclimation, you sweat more, yes, you'll probably have a higher sweat rate, but the amount of sodium that you lose during that sweating or in that sweat is going to be reduced because the composition of the sweat changes. Also as well, the impact that that's going to have on your glycogen utilization and your performance is going to be decreased. So the dehydration doesn't impact you as much. So that's another reason why heat acclimation is a massive big thing. That can really, really help for people that are going to become dehydrated. You can also then do certain training sessions in a dehydrated state to build up your tolerance to that as well. So that's another thing that you can do. So like you're training dehydrated. Yeah. So that's
Shouldn't any decent docs you have, pass it on with video on the group sharing.
I have one there and I'm gonna redo it because um it has to be more practical. I want to put it together. I did send it to somebody yesterday, actually, funny enough. But I wanna redo it. I want to do it right. There's a few things I want to add to it. And then I'm gonna buy that equipment, I think. I just want to make sure I'm starting this thing with your man, Reed Reel next week. So this mentorship thing. So I want to see what like equipment and all that they're using, and I want to buy some of that, and then start maybe getting testing days done. I think like if we could set up like a testing day, in Uri or something, and get people's body comp done, get them maybe their metabolic rate done, get their sweat sodium test done, all of those wee things.
I've recommended to all the boys, like especially when you're looking to if you're in between weight classes and not sure.
Yeah, but
Sure.
even knowing where you're at and where's a good walk around weight for you to be at, and like knowing what you're up against, even working out your calorie, expenditure as well a bit more accurately. Because if you have we can work out your calories and stuff based off the equations, but if we have your actual body fat there as well, that gives you a tighter equation. So then
Mhm.
you can be a lot more accurate with it. Obviously then the weight class fit is a big thing. Where a good walk around weight is a good thing. Loads of different reasons why you're getting that done. And then if I find out I know the UFC use this thing called a lumen, but I want to see how accurate it is, so I'm going to ask him that. For doing actually your metabolism test, and then that'll give you even a lot more accuracy. And then if we've done that over time with people, we can see if their fight camps are impacting their metabolism, and then from that, what to do with their diet then after that. So there's a lot that we could be doing, but it's just, I suppose, getting people rounded up to come and get tested.
Sure, even when the meet and beat and stuff's on, but here I have to fly on here now. I have to go get the
Right,
youngster.
sweet. I'm going to look after my children too. The joys of the fucking
But
days, it's the crack and the nightmare. Right, I'll tell
right,
you
chat
what.
later.
Right, look, bye.